Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Rambling Raven. We're here today to talk about the 1 million charges here in Canada. It is storytelling hour. I have a wonderful panel of amazing people that are standing up from coast to coast in this country to help you find your path to justice. As you know, on March 19th, 2024, nationwide at 12 p.m. from coast to coast, Canadian men and women from all across this country will be reporting to the police station for the Accountability Project. What does that mean to you, and why are we here? We're going to bring on our expert panel now to tell you all about our program and to share a little bit about themselves to inspire hope and courage and perseverance to make all of you leaders in your families and your communities. So let's say hi to Alan. Hi, Alan. Robert. Hi, Robert. Marco.
Hi.
Danny. Hi, everyone. Danny and Terry. And Miss Ava.
Hello.
How is everybody today?
Pretty good.
Spectacular.
You guys are all so pleasant and smiley and happy. What are we happy about? Are we happy about the fact that we've got a plan to save Canada? Yeah, it's exciting. So I figured, this is our first official podcast, and Dale Richardson, another friend of ours, is going to be joining us shortly. So while we're hanging out, waiting to get our full panel, why don't we get to know each other a little better? I'm Dana, aka Raven, troublemaker to the country, and one of your voices for Canadians. And this is me. Tell us a little bit about you, Alan.
I'm a English-speaking Canadian, born and raised in the province of Quebec. So I'm here to tell my story this evening, and can't wait to get it going.
Awesome. Robert, tell us about you. Where do you
Well,
come
I'll be here to, I'm from Quebec, in the Outaouais region, and I've been, fighting the same fight as a lot of Canadians since the convoy started back in 2022. And I'm here to share and translate. There's somebody that's going to be giving their story in French, and I'll be translating it into English. So that's my role today.
Okay, well, you just let us know when you need us to stop so we can make sure that everything is loud and clear, and that our French Canadians have an opportunity to get the full story, because we don't want anybody to miss a thing. Miss Ava, tell me everything.
Hola.
Hola, from Mexico.
Yeah, we're in Mexico right now, but I'm actually from Atlantic Canada, but I've lived all across the country multiple times. I'm kind of like Dana. I'm a little bit of a troublemaker, a big mouth, and I've got myself in a few binds over the last few years. But you know what? I'm very proud to be somebody who is standing up for the people. So I'm happy to be here and amongst these wonderful people. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ava. Dan and Terry, hello.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about you.
Say hello, Dan.
Hi.
Hi.
We're from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan.
Pleasure to meet you guys.
You too.
Looking forward to getting to know you better.
Yes, we're retired out here. We live on an acreage outside of PA.
Nice. I wish I was on an acreage. I'm here stuck in Newfoundland right now, and we've got, I think it's like 25 millimeters of freezing rain. I just went out with my rubber boots on, which was probably not the best idea, and almost left myself in a garage sale. I think it might be better to be where you are today.
Well, I don't know about this crazy weather. I'm telling you. I feel sorry for the animals, and spring doesn't even know it's coming too soon here, and then all of a sudden it's going to get cold again. So,
well, yeah. Let's hope for the right weather, whatever's going to make those crops grow and those animals happy, right?
Well,
that's what's
We have
important.
3.5 acres of Saskatoon berries here. That's all we farm.
Nice.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
We should probably get some of those on a truck and send them to Newfoundland, no?
Well, for sure. Yeah. Anytime, or just come and visit and pick your own.
Well, thank you very much for joining our panel today. We're really grateful to have you, Dan and Terry, and we're going to get back to you soon.
Well, this is all Alan's fault, sir.
Well, that's good. Alan's a good troublemaker. He has a tendency to find all the right people to show up at the right time.
He is. We've been friends for a long time.
Yeah, I've only
Terry, you should also, Terry, you should also mention that you're Native American.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's for sure. Yes. Yes, I am.
nice. We can't see you though. You got a very nice ceiling fan.
Yeah, you might want to
we-
turn your phone sideways. It might be give you a better
We have
angle
the-
if you turn it on the side there.
We have the phone propped up here so Dan and I can watch here. Here's Dan's face there.
Hi, Dan. Oh, there we
Hi.
go.
That's
Yay!
better.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Now, we're not tech savvy here, so.
Not over here either. Definitely not over here either. But
Yeah.
we're going to get through it. We're mucking along. That's what grassroots is all about. We're not no CBC. That's what we should have called this podcast today. We're not CBC.
Well,
Well,
yes, exactly, because if you were CBC, I'd be shutting you off. That's for sure. But yeah,
If I may-
I'm Native and my
Oh,
husband is
sorry, go
Native.
ahead.
So
If I
anyway,
just like, oops, for sleeping.
that's okay.
Like you said, not tech savvy on both ends here. Sorry.
That's
It's all
right.
good. It's all good.
Okay. Great then. Okay.
Hi, Marco.
Hi,
How are you?
Polo.
can you hear me good?
I can hear you perfect.
Okay. I have to make a quick. I have a battery drop from my phone. It's gonna be easier for me to tell my story in French. So if Robert can translate for me, it's gonna be okay.
Pas de problème, Marco. I will do that.
OK, je suis dans le fond un monteur de ligne en télécom pour une grosse compagnie canadienne, fédérale dans le fond.
Okay.
Puis dans le fond, moi et mes confrères, dans le fond, on a refusé la vaccination à l'été 2021. Ils ont commencé, la compagnie a commencé à nous harceler pour les demandes vaccinales. On a refusé les demandes vaccinales. Ils ont fini par nous menacer de mise à pied. Puis tout le scénario a fini par, dans le fond, un congé sans solde forcé.
Okay, si tu me donnes une seconde, je vais traduire les par bout, puis sinon ça va être trop compliqué de tout le faire.
Okay.
So what Marco's saying is he works on power lines with a large federal company, and him and some of his coworkers were forced to get vaccinated, and they refused. That's back in 2021, and then from there, well, that's where we're at with this story. But please go on, continue Marco, continue. Fait que c'est 2021 là, tu travailles pour une ligne de montage. En 2021, c'est là que les problèmes ont commencé.
C'est ça, les menaces ont commencé en 21, puis le congé sans solde est venu en février 2022.
Okay, so the threats started in 2021, and they were trying to get them to get vaccinated, and because they refused to get vaccinated, they went on how do you say that? They stopped working in 2022, so they were forced to stop working in 2022. Vas-y, mon Marco.
C'est ça, dans le fond, c'est un congé sans solde forcé, donc pas accès au chômage, pas accès à rien, perte d'assurance, perte d'ancienneté, 5 mois de salaire perdu.
So they lost their salaries. This was a forced. They were put out of work. They were forced out of work with no insurance whatsoever, no way of getting their money, and they lost 5 months of pay, and they were basically put out of work. Continue.
Du jour au lendemain, la famille, plus d'assurance, plus de fonds de pension qui rentrent, de la misère à payer les comptes. Dans le fond, ils nous ont mis dans la pire des situations.
So from one day he was working, hardworking man, doing his job, appreciated by his employer, And after being threatened and refusing to comply, from one day to the other, ended up with no salary, no way to feed his family, and lost all of his benefits as well, just because he refused to get vaccinated.
Aucune défense de la part des syndicats. Les syndicats étaient ultra fins avec la situation. Aucun moyen de se servir de rien de légal, que ce soit les chartes ou ils n'ont rien respecté.
Yeah. So he was expecting to maybe get some protection from his union, but he had absolutely nothing. His union did not protect him. They didn't give any support. They were basically not there at all. They just let things happen. If anything, they seemed to be working with the employer to push this vaccine mandate on them.
Jusqu'au moment où, pendant le temps c'était un job au fédéral, dans le fond, puis j'ai été capable d'aller chercher mes cartes de construction parce que c'est un métier monteur de ligne à Construction au Québec. Donc, j'ai été capable d'aller faire le même travail, mais au provincial, puis en plus poser le même cadre pour la même compagnie qui m'a mis à pied, dans le fond.
Okay, so what he's saying there is he had to go and get his licenses in the province. Quelle province t'es dedans, Marco?
Pardon?
Dans quelle province, ça?
Moi, je suis dans le Québec, je suis à Montréal.
Okay, mais j'étais juste pas certain. So he was working for a federal company, and they put him out of work because he didn't want to get vaccinated. So then he had to go and get his licenses in the province of Quebec to do basically the same job. And then his previous employer hired him again without changing anything, took him back and put him in job, but this time at a provincial level. So where's the logic? And this, I'm adding this on, and where's the logic behind all of this? And I'd like to take a minute to just ask the people that are watching to share the live as much as you can. You know, I'm on my Facebook right now. I'll do it in French as well. Try to share this information because this is worth listening. There's no sense to this. This is just outrageous. Puis je vais dire en français aussi, ceux qui écoutent le live, je le vois sur ma plateforme, il y a du monde qui écoute. Si vous êtes capable de partager le live, présentement, on a des témoignages de Québécois comme Marco qui ont subi un préjudice, un grand préjudice par nos gouvernements puis par les employeurs suite à la vaccination. On en a tous vécu une partie de ça, mais là, Marco raconte son histoire à lui qui est un témoignage authentique de ce qui s'est passé puis qui met en évidence l'injustice auquel on a fait face en tant que Québécois et Canadiens. Continue, s'il vous plaît, Marco.
Ben, dans le fond, on arrive presque à la fin. Dans le fond, je suis allé poser du cadre pour la même compagnie, mais au provincial. Donc, c'est ça, comme tu dis, il n'y a aucune logique dans toute l'histoire. Puis, ils ont fini par, dans le fond, nous rappeler après 5 mois. Puis, c'est pas mal l'histoire. Puis, on ne lâche pas le combat, puis on est là, puis on est encore en grief présentement. On ne pense pas que syndicalement, on a des chances d'aller à quelque part, mais on ne sait jamais.
Fait que là, si j'ai bien compris, après 5 mois, le côté fédéral, tu travaillais pour, au début, t'ont rappelé pour tourner travailler pour eux?
Oui, après 5 mois, ils nous ont rappelé.
Okay, so he's saying that after all of this and going to work at a provincial level, the same company hired them again, called them back after 5 months to get them back to the federal level. So they basically put him out of work, forced him to go get some licenses to work in a different province. During that time, he had no pay. And then after 5 months, decided to call him back and say, hey, let's go, buddy. All is forgiven, all is forgotten. We want you back on our team. And now Marco's saying that he's, je suis pas sûr comment dire un grief en anglais.
Non, c'est ça, moi non plus.
I'm not sure how to say this procedure, but it's when you put a complaint or a complaint against your employer. So I'm not sure the technical word for that, but basically that's what they're doing through their union, hoping to get compensation for the time that they lost and the grievances that they've had with no salary. But Marco was saying he's not expecting to get anything from his union because the union in this specific matter, seems to be working with the employer and working with the government, which is a problem. I don't think that's what they should be doing, but that's a different issue. So that's what Marco's story is all about.
Well, Marco is not crazy. You know, many Canadians, I was saying the other day about the 1 million charges program. Every single person in Canada has had some form of a crime towards them, right? We know that the mandates, and most people don't know that are watching, we know that the mandates were based on a fraud, that Pfizer themselves admitted that they didn't check for transmissibility, and that the federal government of Canada's own COVID team strongly recommended against these policies that they pushed down. You know, it's really frightening to believe that even, you know, we think we're smart here in Canada, right? We really do. Like, I think we're pretty smart. We're well received everywhere we go. But at the same time, it's like when I look back at washing my cereal boxes, you know, I was like, no wonder you know, it's the programming and all of those things that have got us kind of down this rabbit hole. But you know what? We're awake now, right? We've got a good steam moving forward. Will you be pressing charges on the 19th?
Marco, elle veut savoir si tu vas mettre des charges le 19.
Pardon?
Est-ce que tu vas déposer des charges le 19 pour qu'est-ce que tu as vécu?
Oui, c'est sûr et certain.
So he says, yeah, he's going to be pressing charges on the 19th. C'est bon à savoir. Content d'entendre ça, Marco. Puis, Marco, si jamais tu as du monde dans ton entourage ou d'autres gens, des francophones qui veulent déposer des charges, tu peux me les envoyer sur ma plateforme ou à travers aussi de millioncharge.ca. Mais si tu penses qu'il y a un problème de langage ou une barrière de langage, tu n'hésites pas. Je ne sais pas si tu sais qui je suis ou si tu as déjà suivi un petit peu ce que je fais sur Facebook. Mais si oui, n'hésite pas à me les envoyer puis me contacter. Puis je vais faire le lien si jamais il y a un lien à faire, là, s'il y a des gens qui ont de la difficulté en anglais.
Pas de problème. Puis ça concerne beaucoup de monde parce que dans le fond, là, ils ont forcé plein de monde à se faire vacciner. Puis le fait que la compagnie nous rappelle 5 mois après, ça a fait beaucoup de collègues au travail qui sont venus nous voir pour dire ouais, avoir su qu'on t'aurait rappelé après 5 mois, je suis pas sûr que je l'aurais fait. T'sais. Fait que dans le fond, là, c'est épouvantable ce qu'ils ont fait. Là.
So Marco's just saying there, and I was saying before, for people that don't understand French, that if we know more French people, I was asking Marco to just spread the word with his colleagues and friends, and that they could go through me, and I'd help them out with the information. I'll be glad to help French-speaking Canadians that might not be able to understand English. And then Marco added that a lot of his colleagues that did get vaccinated came to him after he was rehired and said, if we known that it was only going to be for a 5-month period, we would not have gotten vaccinated. And I'd like to add on this, that I was just watching a live broadcast from the States, and there's a study that just came out on 9 million, a study case on 9 million people that were vaccinated. And there's a lot of information coming out now that proves that the Pfizer vaccine has severe health side effects. And, you know, a lot of people that resisted, all the people that resisted, I think they were right to do it, you know, and the proof is coming out right now that was the right choice to take. And unfortunately, people like Marco and a lot of Canadians, thousands of Canadians and French-speaking Canadians lost their salaries, lost their livelihoods, and were persecuted for deciding not to take this vaccine. That's being proven right now that that's not good for us. So I'm glad that we're doing something about this.
Well, and there's a lot of gaslighting that's going on, Marco and Robert. Health Canada has now admitted that the SD40, which is a cancer-causing accelerant, is in the vaccines. So, you know, people are out there suffering from turbo cancers and things like that. But the Health Canada's gaslighting because they're like, well, Pfizer didn't tell us. Right? So this is
well, that's a lie.
Oh,
because it was in the initial reports. And Health Canada, and this can't, you know, the funny thing about all this is I'm getting this information through the States. They're talking about what's happening in Canada, and they're talking about the fact that Health Canada knew about this and withheld the information. And actually, that's not true. They did advise the government, and the government did move forward anyways. They did have that information, but they said that wasn't a factor that was important, that the risk related with the COVID virus was greater than the risk associated with the S40 or SV40, I should say.
It's a lie.
So who are they to make that choice for us? You know, that has been banned, and you can't even use that in vaccines. But because of the situation, they bypassed all of the rules and regulations that were put in place to keep us safe, and then push this vaccine on us. So this is really crazy. It's unseen in Canada. I can't believe they even thought about this.
1 in
Actually-
800 is either injured or dead. 1 in 800.
Actually, with the vaccines, actually have them in the evidence packages. They have actually some of the research on the patents that they knew that this was going to cause accelerated cancers as early as 1985 with this mRNA technology. So they knew full well what they were doing, and all of these things like the prion particles and all of those sorts of things, they had full knowledge. Plus, they also had a test run with the 2002 SARS-CoV-1 outbreak to learn all the things that went wrong, and then implemented them during this pandemic response to make sure that they spread the disease so that they could justify giving out the vaccines. So, I mean, every step of the way they did what they knew was wrong, and there were people that knew exactly what they were doing. And
Yeah,
so
they can't
needed help.
they can't claim ignorance at this point. It's way beyond
No,
ignorance
none
at this
whatsoever.
point. Oh, we didn't know.
Well, they were
Please.
manufacturing the COVID-19 vaccine as early as 2017, right? So they had these products in storage ready to go, much like the ArriveCan scam that they had. When was that one? 2018, they started putting bids out for ArriveCan, right? So the government is fully aware of what's happening, and the
Yeah.
Florida Surgeon General has now labeled these products a bioweapon. Because
Well, one thing I will say though, Dana, in their defense, is that everybody's so compartmentalized in the government that I'm sure there are lots of people in the government who truly did not know, like especially at the lower levels, like they may not have actually known. But the reality is that everybody has the ability to do research. Everybody has the ability to look beyond what they are being told and see what the facts are, right?
But
So-
there were a lot of elements that did know what they were doing, and when this information
Oh, yeah.
was brought to them, they actually took steps to suppress it. Right? Like in Saskatchewan, when I brought this information in the spring of 2020 and started to say, well, you got a delivery system for bioweapons designed to look like a random outbreak, they were just like, no, let's just shut him up. And then they arrested me and my daughter and so forth so that they could continue to do this filth, and sacked me. And they, doctor in BC, he's like, well, the spike proteins are killing babies, so let's just put him in a mental asylum and shut him up, right? So, I mean, they had these opportunities to hear from people, and they did wrong, and they continue to do wrong. My daughter went to the States, and she's Métis. You don't stop an Indian crossing the border, but they arrested her under immigration to keep this out of the hands of the Americans. And then they got to work together to bend us over. So to say that you didn't know, some of you guys, you knew. Some people, yeah, you didn't know. And if you didn't know, it's time for you to like step up and say, okay, well, I'm not going to stand there, because either you're going to stand with people who were paying to kill us and doing it for money and then stealing our children, or you're going to stand with the people, right?
So
That's
is
really all there is to it.
Is there a place for people who were working for, say, the government or any of these institutions that were instrumental in the unfolding of this? Is there remedy for them to press charges as well? Because they were victims of like, they were lied to, they were deceived.
Well, of course there are, like blackmail, extortion, all these kinds of things.
Fraud,
were
criminal
used,
negligence.
right? And so if you go in there and now you have that situation, because when people are controlling the justice system and the police force, and you don't know where you're going to run to, what are you going to do? But now you have the people behind you, and the laws behind you, and some of the people that are in positions of power wanting to do something, so then they need to work together. And so if you were in that situation, now it's time for you to come out, because I've dealt with people that were in law enforcement that actually helped me by doing their job, right? And so I know that there are people in law enforcement that want to do their job, and we're not asking for anything special. What we're asking for are for people to just do their job, look at the evidence, and the evidence is overwhelming, right, at this point. But there's too many people not doing their job. So guys that want to do your job, please do. If you're being pressured or you're being a victim of crime, now's the time to come forward and out these people, right? Because it's all coming out, and we're working with the people across the border, like I like what Ellen's got up there. And there's guys in the States that are taking this up, and they're going to start investigating, and they can yank you across the border. And they're also actually showing them how to do it. So I don't have a problem with it as long as the problem gets solved, because nobody has right to be a criminal and rule over us. I don't see that written anywhere in the charter, anywhere in the constitution of any country. So no, stop.
Yeah. I'd like to, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, and that's why we're here is to show Canadians how they've been victims of a crime, right? It's important that we share the stories so that people understand. I mean, if there's children out there that have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes right out of the blue since they've been vaccinated, and they think it's normal, but it's not normal. Believe it or not, type 2 diabetes is actually a vaccine injury, right? So who wants to go next and tell us their story? I'm all about the stories today. I'm sorry. Vaccine talk is interesting, but let's hear it. I want to hear the stories.
Dana, can you check the waiting room? I think Becca's in there waiting to get in. Can I ask Marco a quick question before he goes?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I'm just curious if Marco or anyone that he knows that was forced to be jabbed, if they're experiencing any negative side effects that they're aware of. I'm just curious how their health is.
A lot of them.
Really? Can you tell us what's being experienced? Is that okay?
They all get sick after the shot.
Wow.
They said they almost die.
Wow. Well, je suis très désolé. Yeah, it's very sad.
Hey, Ava, Marco is not vaccinated,
No.
but his friends are.
Right. That's right. Sorry. Yeah.
And I am
You
vaccinated
are.
twice.
So is my son. And it broke my heart when I found out. Because he does know better, but he did it for love.
Well, I know better too, but I did it so I could keep the roof over my head, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't have to do anything that you don't want to do in this country to be able to keep your roof over your head. And I have an enormous amount of contempt towards the government for doing this. My ex-wife, she fought. We get along. She's my ex-wife. I get along with her, and we respect each other very much. And I care a lot for her health, and she's a great person. She fought to the bitter end, and she worked for the federal government. And she had they put notes in her case saying that she was fighting against COVID, and this was a bad thing. You know, I'm not sure how to say this in English, and excuse me for not being able to structure it properly, but there were notes taken in her case file saying that she was a rebel, if you want. And at the end, when she didn't have a choice, and they tried every avenue, the religious avenue, trying to say that I went against her religion, tried everything that she could do. And a doctor would not give her any pass on that because she did have health issues. And at the end, she had to take the vaccine. So, and then she told me, she said, I didn't want to do this. And one thing I brought up, because I've been fighting against this since day one. Well, what happened to my body, my choice? Like back in the 80s, there was a big movement. End of the 90s, there's this huge movement in Canada. At least in Quebec, we saw that. You know, where employers would abuse their power and use their position of power to influence women and do things to women that wasn't acceptable. And we were brought up this way, but this pressure was eliminated. It's unacceptable for anybody to put pressure in the work environment on another or on an employee to do something he doesn't want to do because of your position, in a position of authority. And I said, we fight against this. If this would flip this around, and if a man would come up to a woman and says, you want to keep your job, you know what you got to do. He'd be burnt at the stake. You know, we'd get rid of this guy because this is unacceptable. But then you turn around and you say, get vaccinated or you don't have a job tomorrow. It's the same thing to me. That comes down to basically the exact same type of pressure that you put on somebody to do something that they do not want to do. You want to keep your job? You do as I say. That's not how Canada works. That's not how we've been brought up to behave. And unfortunately, people didn't have a choice. It was either get vaccinated or you lose your roof, like Alan was saying. I find that despicable. I can't believe that we let that happen in our country.
Well, I have my own story, which I'm going to share after Terry, but we'll come back to exactly what you said, because you're going to love what I have to say. So, Terry, if you don't mind, let us hear your story, please, because yours is big.
Well, when this first came out, I could hear God telling me, "Don't listen to them. Don't take this. This is evil." And I just knew it was evil, so I just would not accept anything they had to say about all the lies they were saying. And I tried to tell my sons too, not to take it. The only one really I could convince was one of my granddaughters, but my husband was a little bit different. He was, if it wouldn't have been for the truckers, I think he probably would have been talked into it. But I was so glad when the truckers came, because then he realized that this was just a big farce. Anyway, you know, he has a bad heart, and we just about lost him. And I'm sure that if he would have taken the vaccine, that we would have definitely lost him. And I have health issues myself. And we just buried my son here not long ago. He died on Dan's birthday, which was the 10th of January. And they did a real autopsy report. And then when he went to the funeral home to be embalmed, and she said that they couldn't even really do their job because he was so badly, because they took everything. Like, they even went into his brain, and they didn't notify the family or anything because they said they didn't have to. And my son Rick spoke up and he said to them, because I couldn't handle anything and I was just beyond repair anyway. He stepped in there, and they said that if he had any questions, that he could talk to the boss about it, because they had every right to do what they did. And anyway, we're still waiting for the preliminary report to see what happened, because he came for Christmas this year and they stayed overnight, and he was really sick the next day, but he'd been sick off and on for a while. And they lost a little granddaughter on a bad accident in Saskatoon. She got hit by a person that was high on mushrooms and drugs and at a school crosswalk, and ever since that time he couldn't get it together. But anyway, they fired him the day he died. They fired him, and my daughter-in-law still hasn't got the insurance. And today she had a really rough time because they cut off her phone, and they wanted payment for the vehicle, and then the workplace said that they only had one check coming. Anyway, that's a story there. But we got we had a doctor by the name of Dr. Banoob. He wanted us to go get tested for this COVID thing. And I just didn't want to go, but we went up to the Victoria Hospital, and the lady doctor that was doing the testing, she said, "I'm not going to do your nose." She said, "That's too invasive." She said, "I'll just swab your throat." And so she did to Dan and I, and of course we were negative. And then Dr. Banu was after us to get the vaccine for the pneumonia shot. So I really didn't want to, but I was scared for Dan because I don't like needles anyway. But I figured, well, if he gets pneumonia and he gets COVID, for sure he's gonna die. So anyway, I just decided, well, to do that, but I wasn't going to take the COVID shot. But anyway, he left for Calgary, and then we had to find a different doctor. And then I wrote these things down so I wouldn't forget them. But anyway, I just, what else happened? Scan will talk to you.
I I was real sick one time, and I went to a walk-in clinic, and they refused to see me. They thought I had COVID, and they told me I had to go get tested before I could get any medication.
And that lady doctor that checked him stood way across the room over there, wouldn't even check him. And then the mask thing, I just wouldn't even hardly go to town because I couldn't stand the mask and I wouldn't wear it. And so my son works for young offenders in PA here, and they had some masks that were cloth masks, and he gave us those to wear. And in the meantime, my other son had taken, his wife said he took one shot, and then I don't even know how many shots Rick took, but I pleaded with him not to. But he said to me, he said, well, God will make it run like water through your veins, but God's word says, do not put your God to the test. So, I just was really not very happy about that. And anyway, his wife worked for the health district, and of course she believed in all that crud, and she did herself. And then their oldest daughter got the vax, and I was not very happy about that. Then they vaxxed their son, who is only 15. He's 14. And they vaxxed him so he could play hockey. Well, I was just really irate about that, but I didn't say anything because they know how I feel about the situation anyway. And then my granddaughter, who lives in Sandy Lake, she got vaxxed to the max, even the passport, and she vaxxed her kids too, and she's bragging around that they all got the passport. And so I went and visited my other granddaughter, and she came there, and I lit into her, and I told her, I said, you just signed your kids' death warrant. I said, anyway, I talked to my oldest granddaughter, and I told her not to take that vax because, and I said, make sure, I said, the kids don't get it at school because I said, they're killing people, with this. And so one time the chief, the reserve was giving the vax, and then they couldn't get any other people in. So they started with the money situation, we'll pay you this amount if you take the vax. And then they offered as high as $60, and she went and took this one stupid vax. And I told her, I said, well, why would you ever do that? I said, you could kill yourself. And then my deceased son's daughter had taken that plus the booster. And she told me, she said, well, if I die, I die. But, you know, like, you're so young, you're only 30 years old, and, you know, you talk like that. Because death is so. You're only 30 years old, and, you know, you talk like that. Pardon?
I think that was just echo. Just go ahead.
Oh, well. Anyway. So now, like, I've been listening to all these videos and everything that's going on in this world, and really praying and trying to understand, trying um, to voice my opinion as much as I could, and to, you know, just listen to these people talking, like Barry, like Gordon, when he speaks and stuff, you know. We've been watching him for a long time, and different people. And then when Dana was having problems with them after her kids and where she lives, you know, I was just so distraught about all that too, you know. But I didn't know how to do anything by myself except for pray and to talk to people as much as I could about and giving them information, like even Kathy on the reserve, because our chief is so corrupt there. I send her things, and I'd send, there's another counselor there. His name is Barry. And so I'm friends with him now too. So I've been sending him things, but anyway, with Alan and Carol, we've been friends for a long time now. And even when he had that for the signatures and stuff, I help with that too, you know, for people to send things out for them to sign for that, for Ellen. But, you know, there's so much, and we don't know what's going to happen here, like how we go about. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what you folks say about what's going on with this now, you know, with this bill. And, you know, like, and then we were shunned too, you know, we were locked up in our home here, no one for Christmas, just one person to come for Christmas time. And not being able to even go to restaurants and stuff because you had to have the vax in order to go in anywhere, and, you know. So then I wouldn't. I don't care. I just stay home. I'm not vaccinating for nobody. So we went to Superstore in the mornings about 8 o'clock to go and get some groceries, so we could eat here. But, you know, and now it's getting worse because, you know, well, God's been good. I shouldn't say that, because at least our bills are paid and we can help the homeless a little, and, you know, and buy groceries. So as long as we can help and do whatever we can.
Terry, are you saying that they're locked down again at your reserve?
No. I'm saying this happened before. They're not locked down. It was like,
okay.
You know, when they were locked down, this all happened then. Hey,
Oh, yes.
and then they were, you know, after they couldn't shove any more needles in people, they were giving them money to go and get the shot, you know.
Of course.
Yeah.
Coercion.
Coercion, yeah, exactly, you know, and sweetening the pie with that deadly needle. And I told whoever I could, you know, don't do it, you know. I've lost so many people. You know, even my nephew's wife passed away a while back too. She had worked for she was a healthcare aide, and she got the vax, and then she had got cancer in her kidney, and she didn't. You know, she had tried to hang on. She was really tough, and she tried to hang on, but as soon as they tried to put her in a hospice, she passed away. You know, and
I'm really sorry for everything that you've been through, Terry. It just sounds like it hasn't been just a few, has it? It's been quite a few people that you have witnessed get
a
ill
lot,
from
mhm,
this or pass
a
on.
lot, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people have been injured or killed by this thing, and I don't even know if my oldest son, you know, like I I honestly believe that it had to have been because he he went and he texted my husband and he said, "Don't tell mom." He said that. He said, "I went and seen a doctor and I had they took some blood." He said, and he said, "There's something wrong." What was that? He said,
Found something in my blood.
"They found something in his blood." He said,
He didn't
and
want you to worry.
no, he didn't want Dan to say anything to me because he knows that I would really worry about him. So
For sure. That's
yeah,
what we
and then
do as moms, isn't it?
he died at his home in Saskatoon, and his wife found him deceased in his room.
Wow.
So now
How
they're
old
really.
was he?
He was 55.
Wow.
He would have been 56 on the 30th of January. He died on Dan's birthday on the 10th of January.
Mhm.
He passed away that evening.
We had a friend down here in Mexico who, when we left to go back to Canada for a few weeks in October, she was fine. She was happy. She was dancing. She was smiling. She was cooking. She was only 51 years old. She was doing great. We came back 4 weeks later and she was dying. And she did die. She died very quickly. Everything just shut down. And it was
Mhm.
unbelievably heartbreaking to witness that, especially after just seeing her 4 weeks later before. And she was in such good health and so vibrant, right? So it
Yeah,
just seems to happen so quickly, doesn't it? Like it just doesn't really give you time to adapt and adjust to the reality of someone getting ill and being gone so quickly. Like it's
and
just
another
unbelievable.
thing too is this all these vaccines. Like when when I was a kid, I got vaccinated because while it was a health thing, like the health nurse, you actually were kind of coerced into that too. You had to vaccinate your children. And I was vaccinated with doses when I was younger, and then I lost a little boy who was 6 years old. He had leukemia. And then just after the stupid vax, I find out that, yeah, it was a vaccine that causes leukemia, you know? Like, how can you live with yourself after you find out something like that?
You didn't know,
So
right?
sad.
And that's the thing, you didn't know at the time. But the beautiful part is that I think is that now you do know. So you can make sure that you share with as many people as possible your story and what you've learned and start educating people all around you that you care about. And maybe you can prevent them from making those same errors in judgment. I mean, that's just you were mind programmed just like the rest of us, right? But now that you know, you can't pretend you don't know. Now that you're
Well,
awake, you're not
yeah.
going to go back to sleep, I'm sure.
Well, I haven't been asleep. I mean, I sometimes get myself into trouble too with my mouth. I
Don't we
don't care
all?
who. I don't care. I just say what's on my mind and that's it. I don't care if they're mad at me. whatever, I'll just say it's not right. I don't appreciate it. And, like my younger son now, Rick, after losing his brother, I'm sure he has some regrets. I'm sure he has regrets anyway, but he doesn't want to talk to me about it because he knows the way I feel about that ugly thing, and, but I wish he would, because he doesn't talk to me, like I told Alan, I said, he won't talk to me at all about anything, concerning, but I know he gets so angry because, like his brother's gone now, and, and he doesn't have any brothers left now. So, and he lost a boy too when he was, I think Ricky was 18 or 19. He rolled over at a water truck and he died, So, I mean, this is just unreal, I tell you.
Well, Terry, it sounds to me like there's a lot of healing that's certainly needed. And, we do hope that you're able to come to a place of peace with everything that you've experienced. And yeah, for sure. For sure.
Eventually, it takes time, I mean, I've lost 10 sisters, my mom and dad, 2 brothers, us 2 children, so yeah, I've been through this countless of times, and I know it takes time, like this is just fresh. And I mean, I'm a fighter. I mean,
that's
holy cow.
You would have to be. You would have to be.
Yeah. But what we wanted to ask was, like, because we're older, when we do take, and I will, like, take it, if I have to take it to the police station, if there's going to be anybody there to, to kind of help us along, because how some of these cops are, some of them are pretty good, but other ones are not so good. Like what they did with, what they do to people all the time, I mean, especially like we have men here in jail for over 2 years here for no apparent reason in Ottawa, there's 2 guys that had to plead guilty to lesser charges now that are let go, but there's now, I think, 2 or 3 yet in jail there, for no reason at all.
Right.
One ran over a pylon and they tried to say that he was trying to kill the RCMP, like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So my husband was just wondering, like, because I'm the fighter in the family.
Maybe you
like,
can answer that for her, Dana.
Yeah, this is the war of the women. This is the women's war.
This is the women's war.
They spent years and years and years programming men to believe that masculinity was toxic for this time. And women have had to get stronger over the years because we've been the home keepers, we've been the child raisers, and sometimes in the world of modern divorce, we've been the mom and the dad at home too, right? So we're kind of like the ambidextrous person that's out in the front now. And I'm reading through all these comments, and you have no idea what your story is doing to inspire others that are trying to come to terms with their own grief and their own loss. Yeah. And, I just want you to know that, I can't thank you enough for opening up your heart and opening up your story so that we can encourage other Canadians to stand up too.
And keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep telling your story.
And we're here for you the whole time. We will make sure that there's somebody for you at that police station to give you support. We'll make sure that you have your documents that you need, and you need to know that you are not alone.
That's right.
We're here.
I know.
Yeah.
I will.
Awesome.
And, with God's help, I know that I will get over this. And I thank you guys. But yes.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
Terry.
if I can help, if I can help anybody in any way, you know, like this is why we're put here, is not, you know, to be silent and, you
That's
know,
right.
to hold our, you have to be accountable for other people too. This is just the way we are, you know.
That's right.
And I've been a fighter all my life, and be darned if I'm gonna just lay down for this. This is just crazy.
Take it all the way, Terry. Take it all the way.
Oh,
Like Dana said,
The
we're all here to
warriors are
support
rising.
you.
The
Yeah,
women warriors are
Yeah.
rising.
yeah, yeah.
I,
I think
I,
we're gonna.
I'm,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Dale.
I'm just gonna say I'm so sorry about what happened. And when I hear about the people who get vaccine injured, I get extra angry because
yeah,
what
you know,
they did to me and my family in 2020, they did so that they could go ahead and injure a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And like went through hell because
mhm.
if they didn't suppress what happened, they would have had to shut the whole thing down. And it pisses me off to no end when I hear
Oh,
this.
you,
And I serve God and I fear God more than man. And when these guys would tell me to stop, say go to hell, because you know what? We're never going to heal as a nation until we get justice, because the bleeding
yes,
needs to stop. And every person needs to start getting behind the people, because we can't let this continue, right?
no,
Like people are
right.
getting shut out. Now they're saying they want to euthanize people and all that kind of
I
nonsense.
know. Oh my God.
No,
Yeah.
we need to help the people, stand behind people, help people, man. That's all you ask. Love your brother, because
I
it'll be you
know.
next.
I just pray that, you know, if I was rich enough, I'd put some little houses here, and, you know, the homeless people could come and stay and
Oh,
make a garden, and, you know, just help, you know, just help, because we don't have much anymore. But even when we go to town, you know, we give to the homeless, and, you know, if there's anything we can do to help, you know, I mean, what does God say, you know? Like, I mean, you have to be there for people. You can't just be there for yourself, you know, and
That's
this
what
is
it's
who I
about.
am,
I'd
you
like to
know.
read you this comment, Terry. Oh my God. And Terry's offering to help others after all she's been through. Wow, what a beautiful woman.
Oh, you're
See?
beautiful too.
But that's
You're all
that's the
beautiful.
impact that you're having, Terry, by sharing your story tonight.
Well,
I
like,
think
you know,
I think it's a beautiful gift. It's one of the most important things. I talk about this often. The importance of listening to people who have been through life and have acquired.
Yes.
They're wiser people, and you're sharing your experiences, and everything you do. Every time, like you say, you go in town and give something, you're creating a movement. People are seeing what you're doing. People will follow what you're doing, and we all have that responsibility to do that. And it's beautiful to see you do it. And you are giving the example to others, and that is a beautiful gift to give to other people. So I just wanted to share that with you.
That's
thank
right.
you. Thank you. I only give
Thank
glory
you,
to God, though, you know, not myself, because I am nothing without him. You know, I wouldn't even be here probably today if it wasn't for God,
Mhm.
you know, and we're firm believers in that, you know. But I'll give Dan the phone and let him tell you a little bit.
I love her.
I don't have too much to add to that.
Hard act to follow, isn't it, Dan?
Tell them about the workplace and how they made you try to wear masks.
Yeah, I work outside, and they tried to make us wear a mask outside. My grandson and I, and we're always 6 feet apart, so we just took them off.
Yes, those old face nappies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They don't
right.
work. They don't work. They never worked. It's
No,
theater.
no.
That's how they monitored who was compliant and who was not compliant, right?
That's
Like
right.
Right.
we all put these things on, walked around grocery stores following stickers on the floor, washing cereal boxes. Like seriously, when I think back at it now, I'm like, no wonder. Like I must have lost my mind or slipped off my cracker. Like really? Really? Is that what it
Never once did I ever put one on myself or my husband.
I'm not too big to admit that I was a late bloomer. Like it took me a couple of
That's
months when
okay.
they started to talk about the vaccines for me to catch on. And when I did, it was like hell on earth, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's open it up and kick some ass and take some names. And that's what we're going to do here because Terry just like got me even that much more inspired. I'm over here vibrating. I'm
I
sad
know, me too.
because of your
Me
loss,
too.
but I'm inspired because of your beauty. You
You
know,
know, can I just excuse me for a second here? I was going to say last month I had an eye appointment because anyway, I was supposed to see a specialist, and then so Dan dropped me off. This was in the morning time, and I walked in there and I thought, what the heck is going on here? This is like a zoo. Everybody's masked up to the hilt. I said, and then I walked to the desk and I said, like, is this mandatory? Oh, she said, we're just a private company here. She said, so she said, we have to ask the people to mask up so that nobody else is getting sick. I thought, this is like a horror show, like, don't you even realize that these masks don't work? I said, I'm not wearing this thing. I said, I'm not. I said, I can't and I won't. And I said, just cancel my appointment. And I just walked out. I thought, what is going on here? Like, oh my God, is Trudeau in this office too?
Well, you did well.
You
You
did
did very well.
Absolutely.
And you reminded me of something. I walked into a store. Everything here at Quebec was awful because we had extra curfews, extra everything here in Quebec. And don't ask me why, because I can't explain why. It's almost like we were lab rats, and they're testing something on us. And I think it has a lot to do with compliance. See how far they could push us before we break. Unfortunately, a lot of people prefer to bend the knee and comply than resist. I'm not proud of that, but that's the way it goes. And I think some people are awake. A lot of people are waking up, but the people that are awake are really fighting back. And I went into the store to grab some food, and the lady had a bottle of Purell there, and she's like, and she stops and she physically steps in front of me, this little woman, and I'm like, okay, I'm almost 6 feet, 200 pounds. I'm like, what's the issue? And she's like, you can't come in. And I'm like, why? And she's like, you need to put Purell in your hands. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Where is it written that I have to put Purell in my hands to be able to access any public space? She says that's our store policies. And I wasn't sure if that was legal or not, because I'm not a specialist in law. But I was like, but I'm not putting that. I'd like to buy your food, but I'm not complying to that. And she's like, well, you're not coming in. I said, fine. So I stepped back out. I do have a platform. So I just posted it on Facebook. I said, this is the store and this is what they're doing to me. And I feel like this is a form of discrimination. I'm not going to bend these stupid rules that don't have any real impact on anything.
Exactly.
And it went viral. And then people reached out to me and said, can you take that down? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that, because you've been using that to get your way with people, like customers, and everything you're doing is not even based on science. You're just feeding onto the fear. You're coming into the fear and letting that rule everything. So sticking up and saying cancel the appointment, Terry, you did. I think you did the right thing. I think that's the best thing we can all do, is just say no, we're not going to comply, and I'm not following these stupid rules, because there's no logic to it.
That's an example of how not to comply, right? Just
Exactly.
simply walk away.
Yeah, walk away.
Say no.
Say no and shut the door behind you and goodbye. If I don't see you again, it'll be too soon for me, because I don't believe in that masking stuff. That's just stupid. But anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We're going to move on. I think we need to move on to Alan now, don't we, Dana?
Yep, Alan's next.
Good. I'd like to hear this story.
Nice. And Terry, if you can mute your microphone too, that would be really helpful for everyone as well, if you know how to do that.
I got it.
Okay.
So it's my turn.
It's your turn.
Go, Alan.
Well, Terry, thank you for your story because it is, I'm not going to say awesome story because there's nothing awesome about it. It's a heart, what's the expression I'm looking for? Heart-wrecking story. I think that's the word. I am English Canadian, but I've been in the province all my life, so I have a French accent. And then when I start to speak, some of the French comes to the left side and the English to the right, and they push together, and you're going to get what you're going to get. So I'm not going to apologize for it. It is what it is. So there you go. But thank you very much, Terry, for coming on tonight. It's greatly appreciated. I hope there's a lot of people out there, especially in Saskatchewan, that are listening. And if you're not, at least try to share it to somebody in Saskatchewan. That lady is looking for some support, and I'm hoping that the people in Saskatchewan will come out in force and back this lady up when she shows up at a cop station to do what everybody should be doing. So that's what I have to say about her and Terry.
They need to back people up in Saskatchewan because Saskatchewan is very much responsible for everything that happened in Canada, everything that happened in the United States, and pretty much on planet Earth, because they had the knowledge to shut everything down in the spring of 2020. And then there were criminal complaints filed July 3rd of 2020 in North Battleford, Saskatchewan. And instead, they tortured me and my daughter in order to suppress this information so that they could go in and harm people like her and other people. And a lot of people are going to know. And so we need to stand up and make sure that this don't happen no more. This has got to stop. We got to stop it ourselves.
That's right.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. So I'll get to my story. It started in 2020, like everyone else. I'm 53 years old, and I've been asleep for 50 of them. Not 100%, because there was always, that little devil on your shoulder that says something ain't right here. So that little devil's been knocking on the door all my life, but with all the indoctrination that's been happening and going on, you just wipe it off and keep going. But I've been awake for 4 years, and I could tell you that there's no more wiping anything off, because that little devil, he's permanently tattooed onto my body. So, but he's not the devil. It's actually the spirit. So, a great spirit. So my story starts in 2020. I was working for I'm not going to name the companies. I was working for a company that was supplying a lot to the US. And when Canada went into the lockdown, well, not all of the states was in lockdown. So he was still supplying the US for product. So we were supposed to stay home, but I was still getting in my car and going to work to be able to help supply the US. So in November of 2020, I was still with that company. The lockdown was no longer, but unfortunately, my wife had a cardiac arrest in November 2020. It was actually the 8th of November 2020. We ended up in the hospital. Well, my wife ended up in the hospital. She was put in a seduced coma for 2 days. But when we showed up, she was taken from our house to the hospital via ambulance. So when me and my 2 boys showed up at the hospital, only one of us was allowed into the hospital at that time to go and support. And so we all decided that I would go in and get the information needed, while my 2 boys were in the parking lot waiting for the information of what's happening with their mother. So I'm not going to get into too much detail because we'll be here all night. So she stayed in the hospital for 4 weeks. She now has a defibrillator, which is very similar to a pacemaker, but it's the same size, it's everything. It's just a defibrillator that shocks your heart. The pacemaker helps your heart beat. That's the difference between both. She doesn't need a pacemaker. So we came home after 4 weeks. During all that time, like I said, we were not allowed more than one person to visit at once. So we would take our turns going in and coming out. Then the next one would go in and come out. She came back home, and unfortunately, she now lives with anxiety attacks, panic attacks, PTSD from the cardiac arrest. So the first week she was home, she was having panic attacks for like 40 minutes at the first day. So the second day, we all know panic attacks is very similar to if you're not aware of it, it's like a heart attack. So we called the hospital, and they said, well, come see us because maybe there's something wrong with the defibrillator, or, maybe she is having a heart attack now. So we went back to the hospital. She was put back into the hospital for a week, but that was in Quebec, it was the complete, the hospitals were shut down completely. And I had to do everything in my power to be able to be allowed into the hospital to be able to stay with her. So I was covered with the mask. I was in the whole gown, and in the cardiology ward that she was in, half of it was COVID, people on respirators, and the rest was cardiology. So she was there for a week. Once I was in the room, I was not allowed to leave and then come back again. So I had to stay there for 4 hours or 5 hours, which they allowed me. But the minute I left, I was not allowed back in. So I had to choose my timing in between work and everything else. So, so that was it. That was a rough 2020. Then we got into 2021. So it just kept going and going and going with the masks like everybody else. We all went through the same thing, except here in Quebec. I think Robert will agree with me. We were and we are still the guinea pigs, I would say, of Canada with everything that they're doing.
I agree. I agree. And if you're not in the province, you can't see it all. You have to live here to see to what extent they're doing it. And if I may add to your story, and only because you mentioned it, it's like we're in a dome in Quebec. We're limited to the information we can get because most of our information comes from the mainstream media, which is in French. A large portion of our province, of the people living in this province, don't understand English and can't speak English. They use that to their advantage and give them all kinds of false information, or they lead in a certain direction. And I agree with what you're saying. And I understand you so much, and I get it. Well, I'll let you go. I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you, but I want to add it to that. You nailed it. We are the guinea pigs, unfortunately.
So 2021 came around, and my wife was, I would say, up and running again. We were working together at this place in 2020. So 2021 came around, and she tried to go back to work 2 days a week. And it was what it was with the panic attacks, with the anxiety, and with stress. It didn't help from the work site. And some of the people within that company who, I apologize for my language, real assholes. One of them even knew, well, they all knew about her situation and her panic attacks. And one of them actually came up to her, and because they didn't really know, unless you're having a panic attack or you've had them or you're going through anxiety, you don't know what it is. So this person didn't really know. But he was such an asshole that he actually went up to her and said, you know what? I don't know what your problem is, but you're lucky that you had a heart attack because I'd slap you. And, well, I only found out later on that that was said to her because I wasn't around. Because, well, I'm not a physical guy. I've never had a fight in my life. I played hockey. I loved it. I played it till the age of 18, and I played it rough. That's about as rough as I've ever been. But let me tell you, he wouldn't have said it twice. That's for damn sure.
I'd beat up somebody for your wife. I'm just saying. I love Carol. Just saying. We got you covered. If we need to go kick some ass, we're good to go. Sorry. I'll let you finish your story.
I would join in too, and I've never been in a fight in my life, but I would join in.
So with all the stress already what the government's putting onto the people here in Quebec, it didn't help that we were in a company that then they added to the stress, you know, forcing you to wear the mask and all that other crap anyways. So at that I simply told her, okay, let's leave, and we quit. We all quit because there was my youngest son, myself, and my wife working at the company, and we all left the same day. So then I started at a second, my wife has not gone back to work since, and she won't. I won't allow it. It's just too much. So I'll do what I have to do to keep the roof over our heads. And I'm not the only one. My son is helping as well, but that's coming in 2022. I'm getting there, 2021. We've been through hell and back, but like I heard an expression the other day, or I think it was my wife that said it, or somebody said it. If you're going through hell, keep going. And I love that expression. So basically,
Hell, we got to own it. We got to walk through that place like we own it. Shag that stuff.
Totally. Chest high, head high, totally.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So 2021, I started a new job, and that's where I'm a salesman, by the way. So we had to travel, Air Canada. You had all the vaccines. If you wanted to be on a plane, you had to be vaccinated to travel. And the company that I was working with in 2021 was actually getting subsidies from the government here in Quebec. And he was giving the employees 4 hours of pay to go get vaccinated. And he was pushing it. I knew I had to keep the roof over my head, and I had to travel to Toronto, and I had to take the plane. So I went and got vaccinated. And I got 2 of them. I do have, what do you call it? What's the expression, the term I'm looking for? I do have side effects from the vaccine. Mm-hmm. I get headaches, and I also get the shakes. So neurologists, I shake a lot. I get, and that's what I have from the vaccine. I know my own body. I know there's something else. And it is what it's going to be. I'm not ashamed of what I did. I did what I had to do. And I wouldn't do it again, that's for damn sure. I'll never do it again, because now I know, like I said, I've been awake for 4 years now, so I know the game that they're playing with everybody.
Yeah.
So actually, when I go deposit at the police station, that company that was getting subsidized, I hope he got a lot of money from it, because I'm going to be putting him as one of the people accountable. The other thing, and I'm also going to be putting Bell Media and CBC and Globe and Mail, or Globe whatever, Global. I haven't watched news in a long time, so I don't even know what stations they are. But I could tell you that after myself doing research, the code that I'll be using is 372.1. And it's every person commits an offense who, with the intention of harming or alarming any person, transmits or causes to be transmitted by letter or any means of telecommunications information that he knows to be false. 40 million Canadians could apply that one.
Yep.
You don't have to be me. Every single one of you should be applying 372.1, at least that.
Yep. And I think it's important to remind people that this is criminal. This isn't
Exactly.
to sue people. This is criminal. Yeah.
I'm not looking for money. I don't need money.
And you're not even exaggerating with this.
No.
This is bad, very, very bad. And it's a very good point you bring, Alan. Thank you for bringing it up, because I'm listening to all of this, and we were supposed, like Alan, you're the perfect example of a good Canadian citizen listening to what the government and the governmental institutions such as Health Canada are recommending us to do. They said get vaccinated. And then the rest of the people thought that we were idiots because we were fighting back.
Yeah.
And they were basing their reasoning on the fact that the government and the institutions such as Health Canada were saying it's good. So it's normal that most Canadians were thinking, a large portion of Canada were saying, why aren't these people getting vaccinated? And then you have the media coming in and demonizing us, laughing at us. In Quebec, it was very bad. The things they said about the people that were resisting vaccination is unbelievable. If this would have been put in any other context, in any other situation, it would never have been tolerated. But they still did it. And you are absolutely right, Alan, to say that these medias are accountable for what happened. They, especially in Quebec, I can't speak for the rest of Canada, but I know in Quebec for a fact that they are responsible for a lot of people making that decision and getting vaccinated, because they were convinced, for nice sitting people with their ties, nice suits and ties, telling them on TV, do it. It's 90% effective, and you will be guaranteed to save your grandmother or your loved ones. Go and do it. And they were saying like it was the word of God.
And they were all
Anybody
saying the
that
same
opposed that,
thing for a reason.
They
were all saying the same thing, Robert, for a reason.
And they're putting you aside.
It's because they were given a script and they just read the script. Associated Press puts the script out and the media just reads it. I was in school in 2014 learning broadcasting and film. And when they showed me that, and I wasn't allowed to write my own news and I could only repeat what the Associated Press told me I had to say, I was out. I said, no way in hell am I going to sit here and spout off lies to people. It's just everything inside of me, just like, oh, like the inner conflict was so unbelievably like out of control. And I just thought, I can't do it. So how they do it, they have to do it without a conscience. They have to, because they know what they're doing. The media knows they're reading a script. So they are lacking consciousness. Therefore, I believe they should be charged just like everyone else.
I'm going to correct you there real quick.
Mm-hmm.
they do have a conscience. They don't have a heart or a soul.
Okay, well, there you go. There you
And
go.
it hurts me, and that's why I get upset about this.
Yeah.
And when I see people like Alan having to choose
Yeah.
between vaccination and risking his life and having the consequences that come with it, or, you know, getting vaccinated or not getting vaccinated to keep your job. You know, if you get vaccinated, keep your job. Good boy. If you don't, you're out. That should never have happened in this country. I was born and raised a certain way, and I think it's the same way as a lot of Canadians. That's why we're all here on this panel. I think we share a lot of common values. And the country I was raised in, I'm 49 years old. I'm not that old, but I've got some baggage. That's not what Canada stood for. Imposing their will on the people. We are a free country. We are a democratic country. And nothing of the last 4 years fits with this description. They're imposing themselves, and they're still doing it, and they will keep doing it. So I'm extremely proud to be a part of your group and try to share information. I'm saddened when I hear stories about like Terry's and Alan and all the other people. I know there's a lot of you in here. I've heard something from almost all of you, and it's heartbreaking to hear this. And I can't believe that we've sunk to this level in our country. So
I agree.
I agree. This, so just need to chime in here. This is like the protection racket from the west side of Chicago in the 20s, right? Like, do as we say or we're going to break your legs, right? Like, this is essentially this. And, you know, is a man wanting to help your family, like, that's so wicked. Like, we never thought that we would come to this. Like, if you told me when I was like 20, going, you know, because I grew up in Manitoba in the West, on the prairies, lived out west all my life, and you would have never thought that this would happen, right? You had the freedom, you just go out, had the wide open spaces, nobody to bother you, right? And then all of this happened, and then now we're living like it's like China. Sorry, this is Canada, right? We didn't sign up for this.
That's right.
So
We're not signing up for it. That's why we're going to fix it. That's the whole point. Maybe we've all been given this giant puzzle so that from each of all the corners of our nation we could carry one piece and put it together and solve the puzzle for everybody.
For everyone.
I think that's what we're doing here, and I think the 1 million charges is the perfect way to heal and unify. You know, so just not to interrupt, but anybody that's watching that don't know what this is all about, please check out our website and get familiar with what we're doing, because this is why everybody's here, is to share with you the path forward on to save our country. So interruption over. Keep going. I'm here with I'm so into this. It's so amazing. Like, I'm over here and I'm going like, what a success. Look at all you wonderful people, and everybody is understanding and resonating with this. It's beautiful. So I just want to say thank you as I'm over here with my coffee, listening intently. Thanks.
Yeah.
Back to you.
The other thing is, you know, when you know your own body, like I said, I get headaches and I get the shakes, so I know there's something wrong. So I purposely, from the time I left, I didn't purposely. I left that company where my wife was treated poorly. Not poorly. She was treated extremely bad. So I left that company, went to the other one, and when I was vaccinated, I worked for that company for 9 months. When I finished that company, I went on sick leave for 3 months because I was getting headaches. The shakes was, even now, I'm gonna hold the cup, and this is what happens. Sometimes it'll spill, and it'll just come on like that. I could be not shaking, and then it'll take a second, and it'll just. And I never had that. I never had a headache in my life. Now I'm popping Tylenol like they're candy, even though I hate them. I'm also taking my vitamins and detoxing like a lot of you are doing. So the 3 months on sick leave, and during that time, I went through every single exam you could think of. I wanted to make sure I got the brain scan, the blood tests, you name it, I went through it. Just for them to tell me everything normal. Well, I'm very sorry, nothing's normal. I know. But if I wanted, and Robert will confirm or deny this, but well, he'll confirm it because he won't be able to deny it. Here in the province of Quebec, I could request my medical file and they can purposely leave out whatever the hell they want so they don't look bad. They're not obliged to give me the entire file. Should I want to take it and go get an expertise somewhere else in the States, or they will not give you the entire file, and they're not obliged to. They actually came out with a law for that, if I'm right. I don't know the law. Maybe Robert does.
I'm learning of this, and I don't know about this law. But one thing I can say is that after my father passed away, I asked to have his medical file so we could look at what happened, because there are some things that I witnessed with my own eyes, with my two brothers and my mother, that don't fit at all. And only after I realized that I'm not sure that this was legal, because they gave him an extremely large dose of fentanyl while he was in the bed. And I saw the amount that was in that syringe. I can attest to that. I was there. And she said it was fentanyl, and that just ended his life. So that's a little bit like, I think that's like made, you know, what they're proposing. But my dad, for the likes of me, I don't believe that he signed any waiver for that. And I'm wondering, was this legal or wasn't legal? I don't know. One thing I do know is that they categorically refused to give us the file, and we've been working on that for 2 years to try to get that medical file, and they will not give it to us. And that is extremely frustrating because I would like to know what happened and what was because my dad said, as he was passing away, to my mother, he said, "Don't blame the young girl. It's not her fault." And we're like, "What is he talking about?" He was fully conscient, and he said, "She's new. She didn't know what she was doing, and she made a mistake." And I swear that's what he said. And then we're like, "Well, what is he talking about?" But then at that specific moment, you're not going to inquire into this because he was having so much difficulty breathing. But afterwards, we're like, "What happened there?" You know, Gatineau is a big city with a state-of-the-art hospital. How could he have been left alone with somebody that would actually give him something that was make his condition worse? So there are a lot of screwy things going on there that we can't get the answers. So that's the only thing I'm going to add. I'm sorry, Alan. There's so much to say, and I'm listening to everybody, and I get involved so much. I want to share as well, you know, but I don't want to cut your time, and your story is very important, but I don't know about that law in specific. If they can take pieces out of your medical or parts of your medical file out, I'm not sure about that. But I will
see. I was thinking Becca could say something about that, because Becca, you're a nurse, right? Like, you work in the medical industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I work in the medical industry. Yeah. So a couple things. I'm just listening intently, just trying to gather all the information. First of all, Alan, I know why you're sick based on your vaccine injury and why you have the shakes. So we can talk about that whenever you want. But secondly, to what you were saying, Robert, you have a right to those medical records. The issue is they're going to try to redact whatever they can. So what you need to do is you have to make sure that you're requesting the unredacted files, because the redacted files are going to cover up whatever mistakes were done, including any medications that were given. As patients, I know in Ontario, we have a right to our medical records. They cannot withhold
those medical records from us. I don't understand why doctors feel the need that they can. If they're holding the medical records from you, that tells you something. That means that they are trying to hide something or fix something, and they are not. It is illegal to tamper with medical records. They are not allowed to change documentation, because anybody involved with that change is actually, it's in breach. Like the College of Nurses have very strict standards on documentation. If we've made errors, we have to cross out the error, put error above it, and initial it, and then continue on documenting whatever it is that we are, because they have very strict guidelines on if a mistake happened, where did the error happen, right? So I don't know how it is in Quebec. I can talk to some nursing colleagues out of Quebec on some of my forums and see if they know how to navigate the system to try to help support you, and I can send you a message. And hopefully you can get some answers that you're seeking.
I would love that, because there's definitely something fishy going on there. And I have looked into that with a lot of friends, and I had a lot of people look into this. I think the law is different in Quebec from Ontario. And basically what they told us is that I'm not going to get those files. And what they said, and was ironic and all that, is that it's a personal file. It's personal. It's his file, like my father's file. I'm like, I agree.
But that's what they're going to try to fight you on. Sorry to interrupt. That's what they're going to fight you on. It's because it was your dad's file and not yours. Yeah. So did your dad have a power of attorney or substitute decision maker?
I'd have to look into that. And my mom's still alive, which is they were married, so technically I think she should have all that information.
Right.
But even though we tried, they're still blocking us.
Right, and they will. But because she was the power of attorney over his care, essentially, she can then request those records for him, because she took and this is where power of attorney become finicky, because power of attorney only happens when a person is deemed incapable of making choices safely. So if your dad was still able to make choices while he was alive, then technically no power of attorney will exist. However, in this case, because you need those medical records, she can then request them because she's his next of kin. He's his wife.
Becca, I have a question. I just wanted to chime in real quick because of what Sir Robert there is saying. So about the medical records, I want to ask if you've noticed, because personally for me, Manitoba, they told me when I tried to request some of my medical records that they had completely deleted all my medical records, and now they don't exist. So they said, they said they completely destroyed. Illegal. They said after 21 years, that's what I said, because I also worked in healthcare, and they were like, no, we completely destroyed. So there's not even a record of it anymore. They started doing it to everyone pretty much after. So my birth certificate, everything, my vaccination record from child, all gone apparently. So I wouldn't be surprised what they're doing to him, because after what they said, I don't want to be negative. Like, I hope they can give it, but Dr. Makis, who we were working, who came on our podcast, and he did a bunch of research and found that so many different people, their complete records and history for medical was deleted, even their death, their birth, stuff like that. So, and they did it to me too. So I'm not surprised what they're doing to him, really.
Do you guys see the comment that somebody had asked her for their medical files in British Columbia and was told that it is the doctor's property and that they couldn't have it?
That's a lie.
That's crazy.
We can't get the actual file itself. However, we are allowed copies of our files unredacted. So I can't go into the office and say, I want my medical record since I was 5 and I want it all, and I'm going to walk out the door. Now, if I move out of Ontario, which I'm hoping to do, I will be marching my butt in there and saying, I need everything. And I don't want it on a disc. I want everything printed out. I don't care how much trees you're killing right now. You are giving every single piece of my medical records. I'm putting in a file and I'm taking it with me. They are not allowed to destroy files. They can't. It is illegal. It is a medical document that they have to keep up to 7 years after death. So if I die, I hope I don't, like tomorrow, they still have to keep my medical records until I'm in my 50s. And then they can destroy them. So this is a bunch of nonsense that they are spewing. I don't think they destroyed your records. I think they have them. They're just saying it so that you don't push on something that's been destroyed.
Yeah.
And what people are now doing is they have to seek legal representation and somebody who knows medical law in order to help navigate through illegal activity.
But even when, just briefly, sorry, that even when people want to request death records from a family, like they have the right, because when I was filing for my enrollment in my tribe, for my tribal citizenship, I needed the death records of my grandfather and all that information, even his marriage certificate, birth certificate, stuff like that. I was allowed as his granddaughter to get that information because it even says when you go to get health records, if someone is dead, you have the access to it. Like you have the right to access it. So they cannot withhold your own father's information from you like that. Sorry, Dad.
I just want to interject here. This is true under normal circumstances. We have to remember what a lot of these people are doing. Because and this is outlined in the documents that I put in there, when you have 3 or more people come together for a crime that's more than like over a period of time, that's not random, you have a criminal organization for the purposes of the criminal code. And so we have this established from the very beginning. So everything that comes into COVID becomes a part of this crime. This is like why they have laws like conspiracy. And when you get into things of what they've done, this is why you have instances of a high treason in Canada and violations of Article 3, Section 3 of the United States Constitution, which is treason. And then you've got this is laid out. So everything that they've done now, they're looking at either life in prison in Canada for everything that they've done, or if you go to the United States, you get the death penalty. This is what they're looking at, because each portion, no matter how small it is part of this larger crime. Because when you look at things like treason is a bunch of massive amount of crimes to commit one huge crime, which is take away your country and turn it into something else, which is what we're seeing here, because we went from a free democratic society to now we're going to totalitarianism. And that happens by treasonous activity. And then you have the trafficking, all of these other nasty crimes. So every person who dies in Canada as a result of anything related to COVID, by rights, they're supposed to, based on the criminal code, investigate every single one of those things as first-degree murder. And then there's increased penalties for everything for organized crime. So now you have guys that are pissing themselves because they know that the population is waking up. And where they're doing things that were never designed to be done, right? Like in my own case, like I let you look at the health records and you can see clearly that they are tampered with. There are multiple authors, like things that multiple writing styles, and you know that they were altering it in real time while I was there in the hospital waiting for it. And then I talked to the woman, and I have the video of this, and you can see she's crapping her pants because they knew what they were doing. But they were doing this because some of the people knew that they were committing crimes. Other people didn't. But if they're withholding their records, they're probably because it's like the guy that's driving down the highway knowing that the police is going to lay down a spike belt because he's in a high-speed chase, but he's going to do everything he can to try and save himself until they get caught. And that's what we're dealing with, right?
Robert,
they're going to break the law.
Yeah, sorry, Robert, can I ask you, what did they say the cause of death was?
COVID.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the death certificate?
Not yet. Another issue.
Okay. So this is what people don't know. Your dad was released to the funeral home, correct? From the hospital?
Exactly. Yep.
The funeral homes have a record of this death certificate. They cannot take him without the certificate of death. So you can go back to that nursing or that funeral home and ask him for the copy of his death certificate. They have to keep it on file because people don't realize when we had to release bodies from hospitals and from long-term cares, we had to give the funeral home the copy of the death certificate before they could take the body. So if the hospital is not releasing that death certificate to you, you're going to go right to that funeral home and say, I need a copy of my father's death certificate, please. The hospital hasn't been able to release it. I just need it. There you will have one piece of information that you need to start your... People never think about funeral homes, but they need the death certificates.
But
So,
I wasn't.
Yeah, but
I
a lot
wasn't
of people
thinking-
have been putting unknown on even those. Like I've heard so many people say that on their records it will even say, I know, but at least you have that they told you it was COVID. But sometimes I've heard people say that they've said one thing to the family and put something completely different on the record.
regardless,
At least you
can't-
have something.
At least you'll have something.
The issue is people are not getting autopsies or requesting autopsies on their loved ones. And even if they are, the coroners are not being fully transparent on what the actual cause of death is. Again, it's like what Dale was referring to. We are in a war with criminals. They are going to find ways to hide their track. And this is why I'm trying to get out of the medical system right now, because I see the death and destruction it is doing. Like Raven said, I was wearing masks because that's what I thought I had to do as a nurse to keep everybody safe, blah, 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 blah. And then I started waking up when I started seeing things in the hospital that shouldn't have been done. Like people were not being informed regarding these vaccines. There was no informed consent. People were just being jabbed. And so I was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like we can't give something we know nothing about. Like as somebody in healthcare, I need to know the risk benefits. Okay, so what's the risks if I give this to them? What do we know about this drug? Nothing. Oh, okay. Well, what are the benefits? Well, we don't know that either. So you're telling me that I have to trust the science in something I know nothing about, give this to people, and then what? And when will we see short-term side effects? We don't know. We don't have those answers. What about long-term side effects? We don't know. We don't have those answers. And now all of a sudden we're seeing this. And what people don't realize, because when you're not in healthcare, you don't know to ask. They designed this mRNA vaccine like meticulously, and they knew exactly what cells that they had to attack or consume to transport the mRNA to create the spike protein. And this is what we've been doing a lot of research on. And unfortunately, in Alan's case, when he got the second shot, it closed the chain that the two needed like a link. And when he got that second one, it went through the blood-brain barrier of his mind and it is affecting his brain, hence why he's having the shakes. So that's why he has a neurologist, because it went through that barrier. People who are lucky that it didn't happen to go through their barrier is affecting everything else. So this is where we're seeing skin disorders, menstruation issues, prostate cancers, turbo cancers. It's huge right now. People are being diagnosed with turbo cancers left, right, and center, and yet no one has an answer. All these healthy people, these active people getting diagnosed with turbo stage 4 metastatic cancer and dying 3 months later. And everyone's in shock because they're like, we don't know how it happened. And so what's happening is, this spike protein is causing these cytokine storms because our cells are, so our ribosomes, which we all have, okay, that amino acid that's in our ribosomes, guess what they do? They provide us our proteins, and this is what's going on in our bodies. So guess what? This mRNA comes in, affects the ribosomes, and the ribosomes are now creating more protein in our body, and this vaccine is telling our system to transport it everywhere. And so now our body is in a hyperdrive of this protein that we can't break down because the ribosomes have been affected, and it's just multiplying and multiplying and creating more and more and more and more and more. And this is why people can't get better, because our bodies we're able to break down the spike protein, we cannot do it anymore. Hence our immune system, why it's fluctuating. I know when I'm about to have a flare up, I feel the cytokine storm in my system. I feel what my skin's going to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a rough few weeks and my skin's going to go red and it's going to be inflamed and it's going to be itchy. And it feels like acid is being burned on me. I haven't gone in water outside of a shower in 2 years. 2 years. I can't go in water. It's like burning my skin. I'm on biweekly injections just to keep my immune system from attacking itself. Every 2 weeks, I got to jab my stomach with pharmaceuticals, which I said was going to happen just to allow me to live. The detox, I did the detox, but the issue is because I'm a cardiac patient. The detox program was too much for my heart, and my heart started being affected. But it was fine up until about a month after my first and this was only my first. I never got a second one. So I could only imagine if I got a second dose, what that would have done to my system. So this is what we're seeing. And so we're starting to see all of the side effects, which I called 2.5 years ago. I said, this is not good. We don't know what the side effects are. If you were to take prednisone, for example, we know the side effects of what prednisone is going to do. If you were to take Advil, we know the side effects of Advil, right? Gut rot, nausea, stomach upset, diarrhea, constipation, typical side effects, right? We know this. So we're able to say, I can say, okay, Alan, you now know the side effects by taking this Advil. Are you okay with that? Because you're going to be, yeah, I'm okay because I'd rather not have the headache. So the benefits of me not having a headache outweigh the risks of me not taking it. But we didn't know that when we first got in. We had no idea what we were dealing with. We were not told anything. Why? Because we knew nothing. We knew nothing. And we were told we had to give these medications. And nurses like me who were speaking out about it and saying we need to stop. We're about care. We're about informed consent. We are not about implied consent, which was what happened a lot. This implied consent nonsense. I'm like, oh my goodness. And so I've been in a battle. I've had my character pretty much trashed. People said I'm unethical. I should never be a nurse again. You are like a lousy piece of crap. I hope you're never my nurse. Like every awful thing you could probably hear is what people told me over the last 2 years, all because I wanted to make sure that I was protecting them. All because I wanted them to say, wait, stop. What do you know about this? And I think if people voluntarily did this, then that would be a different thing. You're volunteering, that's on you. But the way that the government here in Canada forced it on people and pretty much just said, look, you don't take it, you don't get to travel. Okay, fine. You don't get to work. You don't get to pay your bills. And let's hope that you keep your house. If it wasn't for my mom, I would have lost my house by now because I can't find a job as a nurse unvaccinated unless I take jobs that are going to pay me way less, really devalue my work, just do what I can find, right? So it's a sad reality, but nurses who were jabbing people left, right, and center saying, you need to do this. This is for the betterment of your community and you need to protect yourself, and like nurse ratchets all over the world. And they're just happily jabbing people left, right, and center. They're high and mighty in their own little world. They're still working happily. They're still making a lot of their money. They're in their own little happy little nursing bubble saying, we help the world and we protect. It is so much. It's such BS. And I'm so tired of those nurses thinking they actually protected people. And anybody who gets arrested for that, every nurse who jabs every single person over the world, they should all be arrested too and lose their license. That's my opinion.
Trudeau came out the other day and said that they knew that, it was going to cause these side effects, and now they're just going to offer euthanasia. They're just going to euthanize the vaccine. Sorry, Dad, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say something. Go ahead.
Okay, one of the things too is that graphene oxide, right? People don't really know what that really does. And it's a superconductor. Like we study this in engineering as one of the materials. And it also, when people don't realize, it changes the permeability of things. So they can open and close things. And this is one of the reasons why you're seeing things going through the blood-brain barrier, because they're altering it artificially as well. And then with the production of the vaccines, right? This is why you didn't hear guys like me ever talk, because when you begin to understand the way manufacturing works, it was impossible for them to manufacture the number of vaccines that they did in the time allotted. They don't have the capacity to do that. So they had to go ahead and start manufacturing these things long before they told you that they were manufacturing, in order to get them, fill the orders and meet them for what they did. So this was 100% pre-planned, and they didn't know what they were doing. Even if they said that you volunteered, when you looked at what the testing was done and the animal testing that they were done, they could never justify human testing, because they were like killing them like crazy.
And there's phases for human testing, which they never did.
That's where I was going. Our first line of defense should be Health Canada. That's their basic purpose. And that's where I got hooked up on this whole vaccine thing, because I have my own story, and I'm not going to go into it because I don't want, it's too long. But I had reasons why I didn't want to get vaccinated, and I didn't get vaccinated. I didn't say that up to now, but I have no vaccines, and I have my own reasons for that. But I always understood that Health Canada was there to make sure that we were not exposed to something that was not tested and was not approved. The vaccines were never tested and were never approved. At least not along the lines of what Health Canada had as a protocol, because there's arguments about that. I saw a report on W5 about that a long time ago. This woman was arguing, why can't my husband get this cancer treatment, experimental treatment in Cuba? And it had a success rate of about 80%. And the government, Canadian government, would not pay for the expenses. And W5 brought it up and addressed it with Health Canada. And then this well-dressed, well-speaking person comes up and says, we have a protocol, we have a way of doing things, and we cannot allow this because it takes 5 to 7 and sometimes 10 years before a product can be approved in Canada. And I'm sitting at home listening at this, and I'm like, good. I'm glad that we have that type of protocol, so we don't get any kind of garbage injected in us or fed to us in pills or whatever, medication. And then in comes the vaccine, and then all that's out the window. I'm like, there's something off with this. And then you mentioned something else, Becca, the follow the science. Well, I had a live interview with Regina Watil. I don't know if anybody of you know who she is, but she is out of Ottawa, right close to Orleans. And she's a, I'm going to mess it up in English there, but she works in statistics and numbers. And she analyzes a lot of things. She's a doctor in her own field. And she looked at the report that it's called the Fitzman's Fraud. She wrote a book on this, Fitzman's Fraud. And it's a report that this Fitzman individual and his group wrote up for the government. They were the science. What they omitted to say was that it was based on a model and not on human trials and not on human people. So they wrote it up as if it were tested on people, and the results came from true experiments, but it was based on a model. Now, I can't explain it as well as she does, because that's her specialty. That's what she does. And she was on my show, my platform, and we did a live on it. But to break it down, the Canadian government funded Fitzman to do the research. Fitzman lied about the results, lied about the procedures he used to get to those results, and then fed that report to the government. The government knew that the information was based on a model and not on reality, and went along with it anyways. Rebecca went to the Ottawa police and reported it because it's fraud. That's why she wrote a book on it. And then they shut her down. She went to the university where the report was produced and published. And she brought that up to the Ethics Commission and said, you can't publish this because it's not been peer reviewed. It follows none of the guidelines. This is garbage. It's a lie and it's a fraud. And they shut her down. She's got all of this information. Every single letter and everything she wrote is on. You can actually buy this on Amazon right now. And it's Fitzman's Fraud. That's the book that explains what she found. And then there's Fistman's fraud, the accomplices, which is the detailed information that she wrote down. Now, I'm going to try to get her to come and speak with us here and give that information, because she does a much better job than I do. But we need to understand, and when the government was holding up this, saying that we're following the science, they weren't. They weren't. And there's actual proof of that now. And the worst thing about it is they knew that it was false. So this is very bad. Very, very bad.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
they're trying
I
to do.
actually,
Kill people.
I actually read an article not too long ago. I made a little video about it. It talked about how some of the people who were involved in doing this in the Wuhan lab actually conducted an experiment with some rats, pangolins. I think those are out of China, an animal out of China. It's kind of like it looks like a possum, kind of like a rat. I don't know. It's weird looking. They mixed it with, they got a way to kind of blend some of the human genetics with the rats. I don't know how they did this. They tested the vaccine on these rats within within 8 days. All of the rats had died, all of them. Within the first couple of days, their brain started to kind of like just die. I think the way they explained it was almost like liquidating itself. And they experienced a ton of issues, which, a lot of the people who took the vax are experiencing now. They knew that. Every time they tested on this series of rats, they all died, every single one of them. And they ended up just saying, okay, well, this is supposed to replicate humans, the response with humans, but they all died. We're just going to give it to them anyways. And then they went forward regardless of having this information. So like you said, they knew from the very beginning that that was not the science. They knew the science was in fact that it was going to harm them. And Trudeau came out the other day and various others saying that they knew that this was going to happen. And now the solution on their mind is let's just euthanize the public, which is far different than MAID, because what do you do to dogs when they've done something wrong? You euthanize them against their will. That's not a choice. So, it's correct. They knew from the very beginning. They had their research to show that it was going to be harmful. And they chose to give it to the most vulnerable people in society and the most essential workers, doctors, nurses, people who, the firefighters and things like that. It's all intentional.
And don't forget the military. They're vaccinating the military. I'm in touch with a lot of them. I did another live with 3 ex-militaries, though one's a major, ex-major in the Canadian military, and there's a lawsuit right now. There's 400 and I believe 428 of them that have filed lawsuit against the Canadian military because they were either vaccine injured or they lost their jobs. And these stories that are coming out are horrible. The treatment they got when they refused to get vaccinated is unbelievable. The type of discrimination that we have imposed on our own people, on our own citizens, is unbelievable. But they were saying that a friend of mine just wrote to me today after this live interview with those military individuals, and he said his son's still in the military, and if he doesn't get the 5th dose now, and I'm talking about Quebec, I don't know if it's across Canada, but I know for Quebec, the military that are based here in Quebec have to have their 5 shots, and the 5th one is new. And if they don't take it, then they're sidelined. They can't go off on missions. They can't do the rest of the work that the rest of their whatever they're in. Because I'm not a special in the military either, but what a battalion or whatever they're in, they can't follow the rest of the group if they don't get that 5th shot. And he was really upset because it was a father talking about his son. He says, I'm really worried about his health. We know, and we're seeing what's happening right now. A lot of reports are coming out saying that there are a lot of risks associated with that. And Becca, you've confirmed that. And we know this, but they keep pushing it on them. And if they refuse, they get sanctioned for that. There's consequences to it.
It's not like I'm saying anything that everybody doesn't know. People know. I'm just repeating everything that's out there. It's just I knew ahead of time, and it wasn't a very good situation for me. But all the information, everything you guys are saying right now, we can all find. Everybody's saying it. And this whole MAID issue, this medical assistance in death, it is absolutely like, even thinking about it, not only does it get my blood boiling, it literally upsets me because you literally purposely killed your own people And now it didn't work to what you thought it was going to do because the injured are still alive. And now you're saying, well, now we're finding another way to get rid of these injured people because we don't want to put the money back into getting them better because that's going to cost us more. And then it's also going to prove us wrong. So instead, they're going to manipulate the injured and say, you know what? You can't live like this, and I'm sure that you don't want to put your family in burden, and it's going to cost you a lot of money, and this and and people are going to be in so much pain. My girlfriend Colleen, she's an RN as well. She's not practicing anymore. She just lost her husband. And she's battling herself, her vaccine injury. I think Raven knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Very devastating. And she literally told me, I think it was about a month ago, she didn't want to do it anymore. And she was thinking about MAID herself. Like it's getting to the point where when you're this injured,
when you're so desperate,
and nobody believes you. And nobody wants to help you, and you're fighting just to get the care because these doctors are so corrupt, they don't care. That now MAID looks appealing, and that's what they're trying to do. And, for me, I'm seeing this, I'm hearing this. I'm on vaccine injury groups, and I'm sitting here watching all these people and share their stories. And I'm sorry I'm getting emotional, but it's like everybody had such beautiful lives, and they're telling me, like, they can't shower by themselves. They can't walk without a walker. They need ramps that they can't afford to get in and out of their houses. So now they're secluded in their houses. There's no funding for anything. They can't get the answers that they want. The doctors don't believe them. So of course now Trudeau, that piece of crap, is going to use that as leverage to try to say, well, we're going to help you because we hear what you say and we understand of the anguish that you're in, and you only did what you thought you did to try to keep the community safe, and this isn't your fault that you're injured, so we're going to offer you another alternative. This is sick. It's
bullshit.
This is why what I brought was extremely important to the table, because every time I looked over how they prepared for pandemic responses, and this even they did in the government of Canada, you knew who they left out of this in every single case? The engineers. When you have an airborne infectious disease, 90% of your infection controls comes from engineering controls. When you have a highly contagious contagion, you have people that have compromised immune systems, they need airborne isolation rooms. That's engineering controls. Whenever you walk through your inside of a building, you'll see the air sucks in and out. This is like your engineering controls. And so when they took that away, and I did that wrong, they did this so that they could push this biological weapon. But then when I worked with a lot of the doctors, I noticed that they did this with COVID and they did this with the mRNA. They armored the RNA so that the COVID would exist in places that an RNA virus would never exist. So you're finding it in the GI tract, which should have destroyed it because the acid in your GI tract can eat through a foot of concrete in an hour. It would decimate any regular RNAs. So now they're putting this in the vaccines, which means that they were designing this from the beginning to transmit through the air, because they were finding COVID from a COVID unit that was on the first and second floor in a hospital in Sweden in the HVAC system on the 9th floor. That should never happen. So now you're seeing that they're giving you the aerosolized version of the vaccine. This was always designed so that they could spread it to you as effectively as they possible. Obviously, injection is the best way, but if they can't get by injection, they're going to put it in your food. They're going to put it in the air. They're going to put it in your water so that when you go into the shower, it aerosolizes and you breathe it in. These people were here to destroy you. And then after that, they're coming back with, now they say, okay, we're going to kill you. But with what I'm doing is that it lays out the intent, because they had to break something, because engineering is a very funny science and it's applied. So when you see a formula, it replicates something that exists and it works. And so they broke it and gave you something that was impossible to work and said, here you go. And that's why they silenced me so badly, because the crime and the intent was laid out so that everything that they did was 100% criminal. And these guys need to be taken to task. The warrants need to be gotten so that they can go and seize all of the evidence, find out what they were doing, and give people the help they need. Because until they know what's inside of all of those places and what they were cooking up, nobody's going to know. Because you go over to places like Taiwan that has 1,142 biolabs. They were keying it in based on genetics, and we don't know what people have. We know there's so much difference between what people are getting, and they need to find out. And this is why we need criminal complaints, we need arrests, and we need everything to be seized so people can get the help that they need, and arrest the doctors that won't treat the patients and anybody else that won't do their job. Arrest them too, and put in the people that will give them the help they need, because I'm tired of seeing people die. I'm tired of seeing them jabbing little babies and destroying their future. Enough's enough, man. Like,
Okay,
what are we going to
on
do
that-
for our children? Sorry.
Yeah.
On that note, we were supposed to be an hour and we are 2 hours and 12 minutes. So we're going to save the rest of this talk for the next version will be maybe a red pill, maybe next week. But what I'd like to get from everybody, starting from the top row over, is like just a 2 to 3 minute, what do you want the world to know? What is the most important message that you have to share? Go ahead, Alan. Take it away.
All right. Well, the message that I have to share is get involved. Be at your police station. Get involved with the 1 million charges. If Terry could do it, everybody could do it, right? No, but I'm ready to do it. And Terry, if I had the money, I'd fly out to Saskatchewan, and I'd go to the police station with you. I'd take you by hand. So I can't. But I'll do my share over here in Quebec, and I hope everybody else gets involved. I saw a comment today. What's it going to give? Well, it's very simple. If you don't do nothing, nothing will happen. Mm-hmm. If you do something, maybe something will happen. And you don't know if you don't try.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you, Alan. That's good advice. You got to keep trying. The people that are on this panel have been kicking tires for a long time. I mean, we're like cockroaches. We keep coming back, right? Except for we don't have it hot and tropical. We've got a little bit of a winter place to kick up some dust, but it's go time. Once we step onto this, if we don't get our charges at the police station, we're going to lay charges. And then after that, there's always plan C. The plan about plan C is we don't talk about plan C.
Yeah.
Don and Terry, what would you like to share? What would be if you had the whole world to listen to you right now and in a couple of minutes or less, what would you want to tell people?
Well, I'll tell them this much. If I can fight, and we can fight, you guys can definitely fight too, because this is important. This is for humanity. This is for everyone, for your grandchildren, your children, everyone. Everyone in this world counts.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, that's awesome, Terry.
Thank you
We
so
love
much.
you, Terry.
We love you.
Love you too. Thank you so much. Good night.
You too.
Good night.
Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've only just begun.
Keep in touch and let us know what to do here.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too, love.
Good night.
Bye.
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 Okay, Becca, your turn.
I just want to tell people that people are waking up. And I think what we have to do is we have to be supportive of the ones that are waking up, not judge them, not say, I told you so. Just, we're here to support you. Tell us what you need. What information can we send you? How do we support you? And I think one of the biggest importance, because we're starting to see so much death, is if you have any family beefs or arguments, just rectify it and start loving each other, because those vaccinated family members may not be around long. And the last thing we want to do is live in regret of the time that we've missed with people, because to be honest with you, they didn't know any better. They did what they were told to do because they were said this was for the betterment of humanity. And so we have to stop blaming them and, say, well, you reap what you sow, or you deserve this. We have to be the bigger people in this, because humanity deserves to live. And there's more of us than there are of them. And them, I mean governments. We outnumber them like 1 million to 1, 2 billion, 3 billion to 1. And I don't understand why we're not leveraging the power that we have to make the change. We have to stop living in fear. We have to forgive people. We have to, I seek God in everything that I do. I'm like, just tell me where you need me to be. I may not understand it. Just tell me where I got to go, and I'm going to walk, because I have to have faith that we will get through this. But we need people, we need numbers, and we have to stop hating each other. We have to stop loving each other, or start loving each other, and we have to start just supporting the ones that are awakened, because when they awake and realize the last few years what has happened, I've had patients that have awakened right in the chair in the clinic room when I've treated them, and they're like, and they just sit in there like, oh my God, that, and then they're like, and their face is devastating. And then I have to hold in my tears, because I'm always an emotional person, but I'm looking at them going, we just have another person saved. And it's a beautiful thing. And the first thing I want to do is say, I give them a hug and I say, you need anything, let me know. I have a plethora of information. But I've had patients that have sat in my clinic room and they're like, so you're telling me that this is why I'm sick? I'm like, I never said anything, but I'm glad that you thought of it. So this is where we need to be. And this is where we need to focus our energies as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I can't wait to have you on as a panelist again. Next week. It's a date. Dale, what you got for us, boss?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank all the women that have been, holding down the fort for a lot of the men that's had their heads up their hind parts. And I'll apologize on behalf of all of us that have not done our part, because you guys have been doing an amazing job, and thank you guys. And men out there, you need to thank the women for doing that. And you know how you can really thank them? By getting involved, right? We all had issues, whatever the situation is, but that's all behind you, all of us. What matters now is what we do now going forward. And we really need your help. And the women need your help, because I've been working. This started with me just with COVID, and now it's just this human trafficking thing like crazy. And the women are getting destroyed. And they need your help. They need our help. And we need to come together, because we can't expect the women to fight the battles that the men are there. We need to work together, because together we're stronger than we are apart. You put a well-working family together, and they're unstoppable. And you do that across the nation, there's no way they're going to stop us. When we do what we're good at doing, and we put them together, we will overcome everything. So let's work together. Forget about the past. Just, whatever you do, pray to God. Look at your children, look at your family. Just do what you need to do. And we all have something to do. Just get involved. Help whoever you need to get help. Support and whatever. Even if you have to bring water to the guys that are out on the front lines, do that. Just do something, right? This is all of our freedom. And we all have to work for it. And we need to relieve the women, because they're tired and they're worn, and they need some time to rest, and they need to look after the kids and protect them while we go after these dirty criminals. So let's give them a break, guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, don't expect me to take a break, because I'm looking to get a white horse and a sword. I'm just saying.
Well, you can keep going, but we need more guys to do the dirty jobs, right?
Yeah, well, God gave me menopause at a perfect time. Hail Mary. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Love
Scary,
it.
right? Well, seems we're talking the truth. Why bullshit, right? So,
Yeah.
Ava, tell us what you got.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Becca said everything exactly the way that I would say it. You just totally spoke from my heart, no question about it. I'm a firm believer in forgiveness. And I really do feel strongly that because I'm just like you guys, I've been surrounded by people who will not or cannot see the truth. And they're scared. They're really, really scared if it comes right down to it. And so I think that we need to really be able to show our compassion towards those people, because I believe personally that we actually were born for this. Those of us that are part of this group and you know, and the rest of us that are out there that are on this same page, we came here for this purpose. And for whatever reason we chose this, I don't know what the hell we were thinking sometimes, but you know what? We're here, we're in it. We cannot jump over it. We can't go around it. We can only go through it. And the best way that we are going to get to the other side is together. And I'm telling you right now, they will do everything in their power, and they are trying to do everything in their power to split us up, divide us right down to the very minutest detail, even our friggin' gender identity, you know? So we have to get to a place where we get up higher, right? And remember who we are.
That's why I want a horse.
Well, there you go.
Get up higher. The horse will get us there.
Totally. But we have to continue to remember who we are. We are human. We have humanness, and we cannot lose it because of all of this shit that's going on around us. We have to stay grounded in that, right? And come together. Like I said, like Becca said, forgive, you know, love is going to save the day. That's even been shown in shows like The Simpsons. Like, love saves everybody. Right? And it's not all frou-frou. That's real. Right? So I just say we need to come together. Let's work together. Let's do everything in our power to stay unified through the muddiness that we have to still go through. I think we've got a lot of hard times coming, but you know what? It's going to be way better when we get to the other side, and we're going to do it together. That's just how I feel. We're going to do it together. I believe. We've already won anyway. We just have to now claim that victory. That's all. We just have to go through all this muck and claim the victory. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Keisha?
Yeah, hi. I just want to say first and foremost, thank you for everyone being here and sharing your experiences, and Raven for having me and my dad on here. I think this is awesome because we're really getting the opportunity to shed light of what's really going on. That's what my father and I do on the CARES project. You know, if there's anybody who needs, reach out to us, and we'd love to continue to share stories like everybody here. This is particularly important for people young like me, because this is ultimately the future. This is going to affect all of us. We are the ones creating the next generation. We're the ones who are supposed to have children and continue to build and prosper our nation. And that can't happen if we don't get involved and take action. I myself, just like everyone else on this panel, understands very personally why this is important. I myself am Native American. I worked for the provincial government. I had to flee Canada due to being persecuted and tortured. And, you know, everybody's suffering. Everybody is suffering. And if we don't do something now and take this opportunity to put this down, it's going to continue to go on. Our families, our friends, and our future children are not going to have the life that Canada promised us when we were growing up. This is not the Canada that I believe that I was growing up in. I think everything has been exacerbated the last 4 years in ways that are unfathomable to the human mind. It's very clear now more than ever that everything was done intentionally. Trudeau has come out and confessed. Everyone is confessing. We have to take this moment by the throat and get on the horses, like Raven said, because they're going to try to cover it up if we don't do something about it. Now, while everything is hot, is our best opportunity to grab them by the horns and say, you know what, this is exactly what we've all been talking about, and we're going to do something about it. The 1 million charges is an opportunity to give everybody a voice right now. And on March 19th, we will have that opportunity to file those complaints for our personal experiences. You can go to the website and get daily updates, and also understand how you can put all the information together in order to get that charge for your personal experience. Tell your friends, your families, tell your enemies, because at this point, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And right now we all have a common enemy. It's Trudeau, it's the elites, it's the WEF, it's everybody who wants to destroy your family and kill your children, and giving them the SOGI in schools, forcing the jabs on the people like Becca and everyone else in, you know, hospitals and engineers and the firefighters, the people who care about keeping this country functioning, the pilots, for God's sake. So anyways, please, everybody, get involved. Support everybody on this panel. Let's work together, because right now we need more than ever is unity. So thank you guys. I look forward to the next panel that we have, and maybe I'll tell a little bit more about my experience. But the suffering that we've experienced, like Ava said, is not for no reason. God has prepared us all for a purpose greater than the sum of our experiences, and he's allowed us to go through this and prepared us for a time such as this so that we can help others. We made it this far because we are the best of the soldiers, and we need to show that we are now able to perform in this final dire moment and succeed the enemy. So thank you guys, and ciao.
Wow, I think you need to be the one that does a video for us to put on our website. Just saying, I'm just putting it out there. Teamwork makes the dream
I told you
work.
she talks better
You're
than
right.
me, man.
Wow. Like, I have the chills. Now I want a horse, a sword, and a shield, and a whole fucking army.
You see
I
why
will
have
get
to
one
work
with
so
you.
hard?
I'm down.
Right?
I have to make sure that I outdo her. Come on, man.
Oh, come on, man.
Right?
You're doing it with the paperwork. Come on. Teamwork makes the dream work. I'm the vocals, you're the transcriptionist. But yeah, I will definitely do a video. I did make one, Raven. I'm going to be running it on my show every single time until this day comes. I'm actually going to post it on X later today. I'll make another one if necessary. I'll make as many videos, right? We need to continue to spread this and get as much light on it as possible, because every single person who was affected by this, I don't care if you lost your house, I don't care if your kids were stolen, that you got the jab, I don't care if you lost your job, whatever the case may be, any single thing that happened to you as a result of these improper contagion mitigations during the COVID pandemic, you need to file your complaint. You have a right. Your family's medical records being held up, any single thing. You need to take advantage of this opportunity. And this is not about money. We don't care about money at this point. All of that can come later. This is about getting justice and holding people accountable. You don't sue people for rape. You don't sue people for murder. You don't sue people for stealing your house.
Amen.
You put them in prison because they're criminals. And like my dad said, in the US, where they're a little bit more serious, thank God that they have that constitution, the consequences of treason is death. And I agree with what Donald Trump said. Every single person, man, woman, whoever, if they were a part of the trafficking, the treason, the jabs that were killing people on purpose, whatever the case may be, you need to get the death penalty. Military tribunals by day, execution by night. That's it. So do with that what you guys will. If you want to continue to be bad, you're going to find out real quick what bad really is. And when it comes to you, I'm not going to be responsible, because look at the example of what just happened in Russia. There was an American citizen, dual citizen of America and Russia, a land here, got charged with treason by Russia for sending $51 to Ukraine. $51 in, I think it was Russian dollars. So what does that tell you guys? The smallest, there's no small actors in treason. Right now, what's going on, you have to pick your side. You're either going to be on the right side of history or the wrong side. And quite frankly, if you're on the wrong side, I'll step over your grave and keep going. So children over everything, family over everything, God over everything. Do what's necessary, do what's right. I'll stand behind you.
I feel like Dale just had a very proud dad moment. I just see him looking. He's like, "Yeah, that's my girl."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Well, how do you follow that? Sweet baby Jesus. Honest to God, like, no, really, how do you follow that? I guess that we just found one of our very strongest public speakers all in this podcast, and I am so grateful for all of your voices. What do I have to add from my little rock in the sea? You know, for me, it's all about shifting the collective consciousness. You know, I don't want people out there surrendering to defeat. I don't want to give people the vibe that there's no hope to wake up and to look for suicide and mate and all that other bullshit. I'm not here to lead anybody, neither is anybody on this panel. We're here to build the supports to support this country, to make you all leaders of your families and of your communities and in your country. We do this together. We do it one step at a time. And on March 19th, 2024, we're going to step onto that field and we are going to shake this nation, and each and every dark corner of this country will have a light in it, and God help them if they don't fall.
Let's get her done.
Let's get her done.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
That's right.
Love you guys. Thank you everybody for watching. We're going to be doing this quite regularly. We're getting better at it. I'm trying to figure out how to kick the bad guys out in the back room. And if you are interested, a couple of housekeeping things. If you want us to stay in touch with you with our project and you'd actually like a copy of this to be able to send to your friends, please subscribe on our website. www.millioncharges.ca. That's where you get all the really good information. Please give us a like and a share. If you're going to post a video or anything involving the crimes against humanity in our country, please use the hashtag 1millioncharges, hashtag the accountability project. And last but not least, if you would like to share your story, but you're not comfortable enough to share it on a live or something like that, we would be more than happy to publish it for you. So send us an email to 1millioncharges@protonmail.com. Thank you for attending the Raven First Rambling podcast mission, the accountability project. We're going to kick some tires and take some names and start sharing with your friends because it's coming. Thank you, folks. Peace.
Ciao.